Hello everyone, thank you for tuning into the channel. I'm Wes Bryan. Join me for a discussion on infrastructure and software as a service inside of Microsoft Azure. And if you like what you see, like, subscribe, and comment. All right, everybody, here we are. We're going to talk a little bit more, demonstrate, I should say, a little bit more about our service models. We talked about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, and function as a service. A lot of as services, and what we're going to do here is I'd like to just show you the concept behind infrastructure as a service and how that differs from software as a service. So we are going to use Microsoft's Azure cloud platform to demonstrate this, and I'm logged into the Azure cloud. Keep in mind you can create your own account here too, and they give you a certain amount of credits, and there are some free tiers if you want to practice this as well. Again, not required for the exam, but I figure it would help out to demonstrate some of the concepts that we've talked about. So if you remember, we talked about infrastructure as a service. Remember, that is where we have all the virtualized compute, storage, networking. All of those resources are accessible over the internet, and it allows us to do things like provision VMs, storage, virtual networks. And one of the things that we don't have to do is we don't have to provide the hardware, right? We don't have to make investments into the hardware. So let's go ahead and start out and show you how you can utilize the infrastructure as a service model. A few different ways that you can do this, but for me, I'm going to go ahead and use the global search field up here at the top, even though sometimes you will see the icons here allow me, just to click on the icon or tile and launch right into what I'm searching for. But this is a way that you can always find through the global search field what it is that you're looking for. And what we're going to do is we're going to just type in, well, if I can, type in resource for resource groups. Maybe I should use the icons. And that'll take us to our resource group location. And resource groups basically allow us to group a solution together. So I can create this resource group, and inside of it is where I'm going to create my virtualized networks, where I'm going to create virtualized devices such as VMs, virtual machines, or firewalls, and storage solutions as well. So let's go ahead. Let's start by doing that. We're going to go ahead and create one here, and it tells us to choose a subscription. Also, by the way, too, as we're going through these demonstrations, if you are wanting to do some of these activities on your own as well, I encourage you just to kind of hover. I call it hover to discover over any of the little exclamation points, next to the different fields, and what you can do is you can find out a little bit more information about what those settings do. So I'm going to call this our resource group here. Just go ahead and call it A+, or excuse me, not A+. That's a different course. We're going to call it Cloud Plus, and then maybe we'll just call it CV 0-004 for the exam objectives that we're talking about in this particular demonstration. And then we can apply tagging. Tagging we'll talk a little bit more as a way that we can associate components within a solution, or an entire solution, or a set of solutions with a single like, for instance, group. I can come in here and I can essentially choose a name. Maybe I have a name. I've got, this is going to be, I don't know, it'll be our dev team, right? So I'll just go ahead and type a name as dev, and then the value I can set is, I don't know, we'll just call it solution 1. And I can add that tag to it. Now, any thing that is created within this resource group is going to have that tag, and I could then turn around and associate this with, say, for instance, the development team. I could also, have other tags in here as well. But for now, we'll just go ahead. We'll call that, this is dev, solution 1, and we'll choose next. And what it does is it validates this, this solution. If I want, I can also look at an automation link. If I choose the automation link, I can then download, in this case it's the JSON, and the JSON will allow me to deploy this through automation, and it'll be repeatable based on the configurations that I have. We'll talk about automation a little bit later. So what I'm going to do is go back here, and I'll close this down. We'll go ahead and choose create, and in the moment, if I click create here, there we go, and it looks like the resource group was created here. I'll go ahead and close these down here. And one of the things you want to remember in a lot of these interfaces, including in AWS, just make sure you refresh the interface. And if you need, maybe sometimes even refresh the entire page. But looks like our resource group has shown up. So now we've got a place that we can create a solution. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll take advantage of the infrastructure as a service. What do you say, everybody? We go ahead and deploy a server. So we'll choose create here. And then from create, here's the marketplace. This is where you find all of the offerings, including if you want to have a hosted, purchase a hosted SaaS solution and bring it into your environment, you can. But what we'll do here is we will just type in virtual, and it should populate virtual machine or virtual network. Virtual network, I'll tell you what, we're going to do this in order of operations, because when I create a virtual machine, it's going to ask me if I want to create a virtualized network. Let's go ahead and do the virtualized network first, then we can define that. Again, remember, all part of the networking process. We'll go ahead, we'll choose virtual network. I'm going to choose create here, and then virtual network right here. We'll choose create. And it'll give us the ability to now go through the process of creating our virtual network. So kind of an order of operations here. It doesn't have to be this way, but notice I created the resource group first. My preference is I'm going to go ahead and create the network, the virtual network. Now, keep in mind that this is an example of a VPC inside of AWS. If we were talking about the AWS, Virtual Private Cloud, inside of the Azure infrastructure, or for Microsoft, they call them VNets or virtual networks. We'll go ahead and we're going to name our virtual network. And let me see. No, I can't copy that. I like to keep my names the same here. So I'm going to call this the Cloud Plus CV0 -004. We're going to do a dash. Notice that it does not like the dash at the end, and I'm going to call this VNet, and for my purposes, so it's scalable as far as my naming convention, I'm going to call it VNet 01. Now, we will talk in another demonstration a little bit more about our resource availability, but this is where we can define the region that we want this to be hosted in. And then we're going to choose next. We could review and create, and go through here and create some defaults for us, but I want to be in control of some of the configuration settings. If we wanted to, we could make an Azure Bastion, and this would be essentially a server, or really a desktop interface that we can then use to jump into and connect to other resources inside of this virtual network. We're going to go ahead and choose next here, and then this is where we can define our subnets, what our default range is. We have a default subnet again, so I'm going to change this one because, again, I like to control basically the names of the networks here. So instead of this one being called default, I'm going to call this dev, and we can see the IP address range, and then remember from your network fundamentals there, the slash notation there, /24, we're giving it a 24-bit subnet mask, and that will give us our subnet address range, and if we wanted to enable IPv6, we could. And then when it comes to security, network security groups, we're not going to do any of that. We'll just go ahead and leave that the way it is. We'll choose save. And then we've got a single subnet. We could also, if we wanted to, we could add additional subnets as well. I'm going to go ahead and just for now, we will leave the defaults too. And we're going to choose next. And again, we're going to keep this all part of the same solution. So I'll choose, and we'll tag it. We'll choose dev, solution 1, and then these are the resources that will be associated. So one of the things to notice in creating a virtual network like this, we have the ability to create a lot of other decoupled components there. So we'll go ahead and choose review and create. We'll let it validate our solution, make sure that we haven't done anything wrong. Typically when you get this create icon or button, this means that it's past validation. If we wanted to view the automation template, again, keep in mind this is the JSON, and this would be able to, or enable us through automation. We could deploy the same configuration multiple times. So a good way to have those immutable or predictable, consistent, repeatable results. I'm going to go ahead and close this down here. Just like to show you that. We'll choose create. And we'll give it a second. This one doesn't take as long to create. You'll see the deployment here. And what's interesting is you can go through and see, depending on what you're deploying, additional resources that will be created right here. And that'll definitely be something that comes into play. There we go. There's the virtual network. But you'll see even more decoupled components, for instance, when we create our virtual machine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and choose Go to Resource. All right, we now have our virtual network, so we can start to use this just as any traditional network here, but this is isolated in the cloud. And we can see that we are using DNS servers here. This is a managed DNS service for us as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead. I'm going to come back up here. We're going to choose the icon resource groups just to get me there a little bit faster. And you all have seen my typing abilities. We'll choose Cloud Plus as far as the resource group. And now we will take advantage of another part of infrastructure as a service by creating and deploying a virtual machine. I'm going to go ahead and choose virtual here. This time we're going to actually choose virtual machine. And you didn't have to do it this way, but you're going to see what I'm saying when we talk about deploying this virtual machine, that it's going to require us, well, if we choose to connect it to a network so that we can work with it. But we'll choose virtual machine here. And now what it's going to do is it's going to give us some additional options. We're going to put this together in a single solution here. And it's giving me some cost, monthly cost. Notice that it's giving me a breakdown of the cost. We're not really worried about that right now. So we'll just kind of keep that off to the side for us. The virtual machine, you might have guessed it. We're going to call this Cloud Plus, again, dash CV0 -004 VM -01. All right, and again, that's just for my benefit and naming convention, but I would encourage you to use a naming convention that suits you so that it does make sense. And it doesn't make sense just to you, but the organization, and you might be following a policy there too. So next up, we see the region, and we will talk more about availability zones if you haven't already watched the lesson, but this is where we can define how much resource availability we need. We're going to go ahead and just choose availability zone, and what the zone options are. Notice self-selected zone. We can choose up to 3 availability zones, again, depending on how many data centers we want to replicate that across within this region. I could choose 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to choose 2 just for the basics here. You can see our VM is now starting to climb up in price. And then it's asked us what security types do we want. We're going to launch trusted virtual machines. And I could do a variety of different images here. So you can see depending on what I need. I'm going to go ahead and choose select image. And I'm going to create one that I believe they should still be the B1 instance. No, they are not, but let's go ahead. We will search all instances here, and there we go. That's what we want. We want our Windows server, and we're going to do, let's see, yeah, we'll do Gen 2, and this will be server 2022. And here's where our image, the compute power that we want. Do we want a single virtual CPU? Remember the virtualized hardware we've talked about. And I am going to choose a B1 instance just because it's very, very cost efficient for demonstration purposes. And then this is where it gives us the ability to supply the local username. I'm going to call this cloud admin local. You can name yours, what you choose to, and then we will put in password here. And let's see if I can type it the same way twice. When I'm using passwords like this, I like to use very strong passwords, and then from there, if we need those passwords, I would go even farther into doing like secrets management on something like this. Do we want to allow ports? Again, we're going to allow the inbound ports for RDP. If we don't allow this, then we can't remotely connect to it. And then the licensing, right? This is bring your own license. It's a licensing model that we can use. We'll talk about that in other episodes or lessons. And then next, what we get to do is take advantage of the disks. And here's where we can select the disks and the disk types that we want. And then when we get to the networking side, now you can see that by default, it's connected us to our VNet. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to go ahead and connect it to dev here. And then here is your public interface that you could potentially give it. I'm not going to give this one a public interface right now because I don't want it to be publicly accessible. I only want it to be accessible through the management interface at this point that we're connected to. There's also a network security group which allows I can't say it. It allows a moderate amount of IP traffic filtering. Again, it doesn't really replace a basic firewall, but again, it gives you a moderate amount of traffic filtering there. We also have inbound ports. Do we want to allow them over a public network? I'm going to say no on this one versus the yes to that we said earlier. Remember the port there, 3389 that we used earlier, was just to connect to it through this interface. This is going to close down that public interface. I don't want that to be available to the public. And I'm also going to use another thing, proper scrubbing of your environment, because you are using so many decoupled components. I do want you to keep in mind that it is good to scrub the NIC in the VM when the VM's deleted. So we could implement load balancing. We're not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to just choose none here. Let's see if it gives me a warning. Sometimes it'll give you a warning. Management, I'm going to go ahead. Again, look at all these different options. I'm going to go ahead and choose monitoring. I'm going to disable boot diagnostics. I don't need that. And then if I wanted to choose some advanced options, I could as well. We're going to go ahead and I'm just nexting through, choosing next through these options here. And then here's the variety of decoupled components that we're going to create just by creating a virtual machine. We're going to choose review and create and see if I didn't make a mistake here, because there are times that when I am doing something or a demonstration that I might make a typo in something, but it looks like it's validated. Again, if I wanted to, remember just to use your review screen here. We're going to go choose create here. I could automate this as well too, just like we've done with all the other resources, and we could deploy it. So there we are, it's creating it, and now you're going to start to see these decoupled components kind of adding up here as it goes through the process of spinning up this virtual machine. We're going to let this deploy, let this go through the process of deploying. So how does that's infrastructure as a service, right? This is our compute, this is our storage, this is our networking, right? That we get all of those resources that we're creating over the internet. Now, if we look at SaaS, software as a service, right? I am logged in to the Microsoft account, right? And if I open up the little ellipsis over here, notice that we have a variety of applications, and these applications, they allow me the ability to use that software without having to deploy the software locally. Yes, I do have Excel running locally. I do have PowerPoint because I use them, but notice I don't have to have this installed. I can choose any one of these options, right? So for instance, maybe I wanted to create a Word document. I can select Word document, and without actually installing any of the software, it is now creating me a document file that I can start to utilize with that software readily available. And I don't have to keep this software up to date. I don't have to roll out updates to it. Really don't even have to deploy any software. All we have to do is provision the user accounts, manage access control, and then we need to make sure that we, protect our data, right? So making sure that you're protecting your info is going to be important on that side. Let's go ahead and hop back over and look at our solution. Looks like our deployment is complete. So let's go to this resource, the VM that we just created here, and take a look. And we can see that we now have our virtual machine running. Now, I know it says the virtual agent status is not ready. Don't need to worry about troubleshooting this issue right now because this machine is still booting up. But there we have it. We have a Windows operating system. We can see that it's 64-bit architecture. It's a V2 implementation. You can see its private IP address. You can see what the virtual CPU, the virtual resources are in here, including the RAM. We can see what the source image is. is. We can also see information relating to, for instance, the disk that this virtual machine is using. And we could come in here, even look at each one of these components individually if we wanted to. Again, you can kind of see what the operating system type is. You can see the storage type, that this is a premium tier SSD, and it's got LRS redundancy. So there you have it, everybody. That's a little bit about infrastructure as a service, creating, so for instance, creating those virtualized compute offerings that we've done here, as well as creating, like virtualized networks, virtual machines themselves, and looking at the difference between that and something like a SaaS offering where we don't have to install the software. The provider themselves, they provide the entire application stack, all the way up to the application stack, and the only thing that we need to provide really is just identity and access management and control the data. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining me.